here with Duke, a special guest from Greece, to tell us all about what's going on with the Greek border crisis. Now, the first thing I want you to do in the chat is to tell me if we are all good with sound and we're live. So give me a 1 in the chat, everybody, just to let us know we are, just to let us know we're live, guys. I'm just waiting for the chat now. By the way, thanks for joining me, Duke.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers.
Hello.
It's a pleasure. Yeah, hi to everybody. We're all good. We're live. Okay, I just wanted to make sure we weren't talking to, although it's good talking to each other, but it's nice to have everybody here as well, right? So thank you, Duke, for joining me. I feel really privileged because it's kind of hard to get people sometimes to explain what's going on in a certain situation, and I don't like just depending on the news. It's nice to find an actual person to explain what's going on. So you're from Greece, right?
Yeah, I'm Greek.
Brilliant.
I live in Athens.
Huh? In Athens, yeah.
I live in Athens, yeah, the capital.
Yeah, I must go actually. I would like to go to Athens sometime. Now, just about the crisis itself, we might as well just get straight into it. So we have two things going on. We have the border crisis, I think, is up in the northeast, and then there is something going on in the islands as well. Are those two distinct things? For people who aren't familiar with Greece, are they two separate things, or are they joined crises, the same thing? What would you say to that?
No. I would say it's the same thing. It's not distinct because they come from the same destination and they arrive in the same country. So the only different thing is that Greece cannot, in the sea make the same, have the same, attitude as in land, because the rules are not the same, and okay, it's water, so it's much harder.
Yeah, so it's water, land, but it's the same. It's the same issue going on. And now, so just to explain the border crisis, that is, where's like the actual one? We're seeing pictures of fences and riot police and migrants. Where is that? Is that just all over the northeast, or is it in a specific place?
No, that's in a specific place in the northeast border of Greece with Turkey.
Okay. And then we have the let's concentrate on that.
It's not a specific door, let's say. Okay, but it's an area. It's an area of some kilometers, and that's going on there.
And for somebody who doesn't know anything of what's happening, let's go back to the start on it. What is happening there from your point of view?
President Erdogan of Turkey announced a couple of days ago that he will open the border for 7 to 12 hours for the immigrants who are there to go to Europe. The thing is that, as we know, Turkey is hosting 4 million, I think, immigrants from the wars in Syria and other countries. The problem is that President Erdogan told the Turkish people that the borders are open, but he didn't clarify that the Turkish borders are open and not the Greek ones. So these guys, started the trip with free bus rides arranged by, as we know now, Erdogan himself, or by smugglers in the Aegean Sea. In the other case that we said, and they're coming here, they're coming to Greece because they know that they can go to Europe. Well, that's not the truth. I can't hear you right now. I think your mic is muted.
A complete professionalism from me there with my muted mic. Why is Erdogan doing this?
I'm guessing that it's, and as his minister Çavuşoğlu stated, that it's because he hasn't been paid the full amount of the 6 billion euros that were agreed with the European Union, so that he, with this money, takes care of the refugees in his country. So what he says is, you don't pay us, so we cannot host them anymore.
Okay.
But in Greece, we are under the impression that this was also a chance for him to attack Greece, because he, in recent years, has stated that sometime he will attack Greece and take back what's his and all this stuff.
I mean, so the claim is that it's about the money, but as far as I can see, there is a kind of historical maybe rivalry between Turkey and Greece.
Of course, nobody can doubt that.
Yeah, but bear in mind, for like an Irish person or for anybody who isn't Greek, a lot of people aren't familiar with that. Now, I know we don't have time to go into the full history of it, but just in the in small detail, what is the issue there?
I cannot tell you what the issue is. Greece and Turkey have been in problems, from time to time, and I think that usually we're not the aggressor. As I could tell you that 99% of the times we're not the aggressor, and I'm not the guy who will tell you that everything in Greece is perfect and we're doing always the right thing and all this. But definitely the last let's say 15 years, Turkey has been keeping trying to provoke Greece to answer with a hit or something like that. We have for decades now daily Turkish fighting aircrafts crossing into our airspace, provoking Greek pilots and all this. It's not easy for Greece.
Okay, so it might not just be, on one sense it's about the money, but there is a little bit of rivalry between Greece and
of course,
and Turkey.
Yes.
Yeah, and what about, is the same thing happening in Bulgaria right now? Because I know Bulgaria borders Turkey as well. Are they having a border crisis, or is it just limited to Greece?
No, and it's really near the Greek-Turkish border, and it's not. There's not a crisis. I think President Erdogan met with the president of Bulgaria today, and my guess is, from what I read, that the Bulgarian president is supporting Erdogan.
Wow.
I don't know. No, Bulgaria has no problem. Although logically it should have the same problem with Greece.
That is very interesting. That's a strange feature. So that makes me believe that it is more focused on some kind of conquest or kind of rivalry, maybe.
Yeah, that's what it smells like. But
yeah. And in terms of the islands, so we've talked about the border a little bit. The islands, you have Lesvos. It's pronounced Lesvos, yeah?
Exactly.
With a V. Yeah.
Yes.
So on Lesvos and I think Chios, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes.
Well? Yeah, and some of these islands, can you tell us about the situation there at the moment?
Look, the thing is that those islands, I can talk for hours about this. Those islands are hosting thousands of immigrants, each island. They have some camps. Conditions are not what you would say perfect. Everybody understands this, but you cannot take care as a country, a camp when 1,000 new immigrants come every day. Nobody can, I think, do this. The problem with the islands is this, that as they receive new people every day, the camps grow bigger. These people have problems between them in the camps because, they're from different nationalities. There are rivalries and all this. And the problem is that these islands have mostly live by the tourism industry. So let's say there are, in a specific island, for example, live 1,000 Greeks, but when there are 3,000 immigrants during the winter, that's a problem, as you can understand. And some days ago, the Greek government announced some new measures to make new camps that would be closed, so the immigrants could not go outside or all this. And the people who live in the islands, didn't like that, and we had demonstrations. It was really hard, and so you can understand that this has been escalating for years. Right now, the focus, though, is not on the islands; it's on the northeast border and the people who are gathered there, because I think it's something like 10,000.
Okay, I will get to the border in a sec, because it sounds like, according to you, the focus and the main thing is there. But just briefly on the islands, I have to ask, because there's a lot of mystery about this. So they wanted to open another camp on the islands, some of the islands or one of the islands. That's the first question. Is it one or many of them?
No, there are many. The government stated that they would open the new camps to shut down the old ones. But the locals say, you cannot guarantee this because people are coming every day. So how are you going to do this? We have new refugees, and how you will not close the old camps. So because you have to put them somewhere to sleep. So that was hard.
So people are skeptical. So instead of thinking it's just replacing, people think that they're going to double the amount of camps, and
exactly.
that was the issue people had. Now I saw people.
I can understand these people because they have heard this same story for years now. Every new people who come to govern Greece, a new government, promises things. Then they see the reality is different, so they put more pressure to the islanders year and year and year and more, and it's really hard for them.
Okay, and we saw a kind of militarization where there were ferries coming over from the mainland to kind of maybe enforce the new camp or counteract the protests.
Exactly.
How did that kind of standoff end, or how has it transpired as of now? What is the situation there between the let's say the military, the police, and the protest?
The government announced that it will, and it did, speak again with the local authorities, that supported the protests, and will find a viable solution, and that's where we're at. And then the thing with the northeastern border came up. So that's been kind of freezed right now.
Oh, okay, so it's kind of complicated things. So it's basically just a coincidence. These things
exactly.
Exactly. And I think that's what was confusing me, which I'm delighted to have you tell me now, because I was wondering why is all this happening now. And the other thing is just that on those islands they're promising that to maybe discuss it. In my experience in Ireland, we have much smaller problems related to asylum seekers. but with something, I do have some experience in this, and usually when they say let's talk about it, let's have a dialogue, it means we're doing it anyway, but let's just kind of delay a little bit, but it's still going to happen. So I'm just wondering how this is going to come to a head between the people. I mean, they seem to be standing very strong, right? On this, I don't know.
We're all wondering about it.
Yeah. And so, what more can you tell us about the northern border? What have you noticed? Because you, as far as I can see, you are.
First of all, I think it would be useful for you to know a bit of history on the area, on the Greek side of the area. This area that we call Thraci has been taken over from both countries many times. So the thing is that I can speak, for the Greek side. Thraci has many people who are Muslim, which is not, common in Greece. Greece is a Christian Orthodox country, and the majority in that specific area is Muslim. And as you can understand, there are extremists there. There are people that say, we want to liberate this area from Greece because we belong to Mother Turkey, So the thing that this spot was chosen, is a bit. You can make the connection on your own. I need not to tell you more.
I mean, I'm sure you will now, but it is quite worrying that. So what you're saying is that the area of Greece on the Greek side of that border in the northeast is kind of like somewhat like. No, I'm exaggerating here, but somewhat like a Kashmir or a disputed. Maybe not a disputed territory, but
let's say it's something like Catalonia in Spain that we heard they want to, make their own country, But it's never been so serious. You understand me? The extremists say that they would. That doesn't mean that everybody would like to. Or it's just an area that has many Muslims who some of them say, we're Turks, we're not just Muslims. It's a complicated thing. So, but the thing is that. Choosing this area to send the immigrants from a Muslim country is a bit, weird.
It is a bit weird. And what's the percentage in that area of Muslim to, let's say, Christian or Christian non-religious, traditionally Greek?
I don't want to make a guess on that. I haven't researched it about it.
Yeah, I can ask.
I'm not listening to you right now.
Sorry. What is the name of the region?
Thraci, it's called in Greece. In Greek, I think Thrace, Thra.
Okay, I can send some of the chat on a mission there, maybe to find that one out, and they can tell us in the end. But yeah, so there is a demographic kind of issue going on there by the sounds of it. That's what I'm most interested in, is what, in a sense, is that this doesn't seem to just be the average migration crisis. It seems to be it seems like a conquest to me. Does that sound right to you or no?
I don't want to use that word because we haven't seen it extended to that. But and as far as I understand, and what the immigrants say is that they want to go to Europe, and it's okay for us. And for you to understand, because Germany is a much richer country, has much better benefits than Greece and all this. But first of all, we cannot risk doing that without asking the other countries. And second of all, we are a country with borders, and people cannot come in uncontrollably.
I mean, that sounds fair to me. I think most people would agree with that. I mean, what is the Greek state like, or the Greek government? I know there's currently it's called a centre-right government, but how would you characterize the political view of the government towards this crisis, both on the islands and in the northeast?
A center. I think they have a center approach on this. The thing is that they have sometimes been accused of being right in the last 2 weeks, but or too right or too conservative, call it as you wish. But I think that in certain circumstances like this, you cannot do much more or much different.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder, are there people criticizing the Greek state and the Greek government for not going far enough? Because obviously some people will criticize them for going too far or being too restrictive. But I mean, there is obviously a kind of a further right in Greece. I'm obviously thinking of the Golden Dawn now. And there are a lot of articles about how they rose and fall and all of that, but maybe not quite out that far right. But just in general, is there a body of people who want the Greek government to do more?
Well, I think not. I think no. I don't mean there aren't any. But I don't think it's a percentage that would trigger a conversation about it.
Okay, a good way of putting it. Yeah. So basically the majority of the Greek population are kind of like, they don't think the government is going too far, but they're also satisfied with how far they're going. Basically, my question is the majority in support of how the Greek government is dealing with this crisis?
I'm under the impression that the majority, and a big majority, supports the government. And as far as I'm concerned about my situation, I was a conservative, sympathizer, but some other times, criticizing this government. I am on 100% with them on this, because I see that from my point of view, they're treating this the right way, not too hard, not too soft. It's somewhere in the middle. That's
just about right,
of course. Yeah.
And so for those who don't know, kind of including me, to be honest, if they're treating it just about right, what does that mean? What way are they treating it?
They are just doing what they are announcing, nothing more, nothing less, not letting people that don't have papers come inside the country, not going too extreme with violence or anything like that. Mind you that the Turkish side has announced that the Greek guards have killed people, but as far as I know, that's not true. It hasn't been verified by big news media outlets, or it's just the claims of Erdogan, and he's found lying in other circumstances in the past. So I wouldn't trust him.
And actually remind me, maybe do the Turkish state have a media of their own? With Russia you have RT, and in Iran you have Press TV and Xinhua News and whatever, maybe CNN for America, right? Semi-state news. I think TYT. If you don't know, the chat.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, maybe the chat can tell me. Maybe I should know better, but I think TYT is a Turkish kind of semi-state news company, because I see a lot of anti-Greek, pro-Turkish kind of propaganda coming out from that right now.
Okay.
But the next question I have for you is the European Union. What's the relationship like at the moment? Is Turkey or is Greece, sorry, abiding by Europe's demands? And there must be conflict to do with certain, because Europe will, in Ireland, we often say, oh, we have to do this and that because the EU law. Is there any conflict between Greek practice right now and EU law? And what's the situation there?
This we have to see it in the next days, because today some people from the European Union, like Mrs. von der Leyen, came in the Greek border with the Prime Minister of Greece and made a common, address to the press and all this. So they said they support Greece. This we really have to see it in action. I mean, in the next days. As far as I know, up to now, Europe supports Greece with its decisions and way of treating the whole subject.
I mean, it is very curious. I don't know if Merkel has said much on this. The idea that such austerity was put on Greece financially.
Yeah, that's a whole huge subject. We don't have the time to discuss right now. Maybe not.
I'm the kind of guy who could go on forever, but we must not do that, I suppose. But I don't think people are, because there is a lot of pressure. So Greece has way too many asylum seekers or migrants at the moment than it can handle, as far as I know. But if you look out, just for any Greek people who might listen to this through your Twitter, if any Greeks watch who speak English, in Ireland we have a large issue with asylum seekers as well, even though we're so far. We're on the opposite end of Europe, literally. Yeah. And now if a Greek saw it, they might kind of roll their eyes, because it's nothing compared to Greece. But at the same time, it's pretty, like, okay, so it's nothing compared to Greece, but we do have a problem. It's not easy peasy. What happens is they set up large centers in small countryside towns, rural towns, and we get protests all the time about these things. So it really is a difficulty for the government and for the people locally and stuff. And any increase would meet big opposition here in Ireland. And we're on the other side of Europe. So I imagine the same is true for Germany, for Sweden, for all of these countries. So the idea that there is an overspill for to take that pressure off Greece isn't true. I mean, it has to be dealt with at some point fundamentally, this idea of this kind of barrage, some people say invasion or whatever, of people coming to Europe. I don't know what the solution is, but maybe to do what Greece is doing now. I mean, how long can we have crises just happening over and over? What do you think can be done, for example, with Turkey to make arrangements with them? Do you think there is room for diplomatic fixing of the situation?
There's no other way of fixing this situation. It's not, some claiming to take over your land or something. It's there's no other way to handle it. The problem is that if, let's say, Greece opens the border today or tomorrow, how is that going to stop? When is it going to stop? And let's say it stops in a week. The next time, what do you do? It's an ethical question. And our country, as much as I know other European countries too, most, or let's say all European countries have taken refugees, immigrants. They have taken care of them and all this. But we have to know, first of all, my problem is that we don't know how many we can host. Nobody tells us, okay, your island, you have, I don't know how, let me speak about Greece, that I know the numbers. Your Greece, you have 10 million Greeks there. Your market can give jobs to 1 million more. Okay, let's take 1 million immigrants to help us with the demographic problem that we're going to have in the next. Nobody tells us this. So it's uncontrolled, and it's not organized, and it's. We have to find this. We have to organize this thing more. We have to know what we want, because I think as a European Union, we don't know what we want. We want immigrants, then we close the border. We close the border, then we say, solidarity and people rights and all. It has to be a bit more specific. That's my opinion.
That sounds, again, pretty reasonable, I think, to most people. The question of demographics. So, you mentioned the demographic issues that maybe Greece has. Now, in Ireland, we have a fertility rate of about 1.8, 1.8, and I've noticed in Greece the fertility rate is like 1.3. Maybe you can correct me, but I think it's around 1.3. So in Ireland, we think of ours as very low and sub-replacement and all of that, but in Greece, it's pretty. I mean, there are a few countries in Europe. I think we're one of the highest in Europe for it, even though ours is still not very good. But I think Greece is in the lower end of Europe, along with Italy and Portugal.
I agree.
Do you have any comment on that, or do you just think it's just whatever?
No, I can tell you that first of all, your figures sound real to me, and second of all, that Greece also has the burden of the recession. So the problem is that the funds that give the pensions to the people that are old and not working anymore are already having a problem finding the money. And you can understand that as a country that have more old people and less young people, you need to support the demographic with influx of others. So that's the reasonable choice. But we have to know in numbers. That's where I disagree. That's what I said before also.
Yeah, I saw an interesting tweet by a guy called Henrik. He pointed out a video of the border crisis in the northeast, and the migrants at the border, and he said these are the people who are going to supposedly look after the Greeks. Now, it's just the imagery from the border looks pretty hostile as far as I can see, so it doesn't really match with the idea that is going to be your, salvation. Demographically, I don't know about that, And the other thing,
I cannot blame these people. They were promised a better life, a better land. Maybe some are expecting, benefits or pensions, or I cannot blame these people. If somebody told me, go to New York and you could get out of the blue for 2 years 10,000 per month, and I would go. It would not be a problem. I have no problem with the people. I have problem with the policies.
Yeah, I of course, and I actually sympathize with that as well. Some of the people there now, I have to say, I don't sympathize too much, because I do see the imagery. I do see the imagery from the border, and I'm sure there's some very nice people there, of course, but it does seem quite aggressive and quite, I don't know. It's not the poor people who are fleeing maybe persecution. It does seem like a lot of healthy young men who just, like you say, want a better existence, maybe. But at the other, insofar, I do sympathize, because no matter who it is, they have kind of been promised it. And you could say it's because of Europe's overly weak attitude and stuff, but either way, they have been promised it. And they have traveled a long way. They've paid money to smugglers, all of this stuff. I feel bad for them. I feel bad for them to some extent, but at the same time, Greek people matter too, and you only have so many resources to go around. So
I used to give an example. I say that any country is like a house, and the government is the father of the house. And first, he has to take care of his children, and then take the children that are in need and also help them. But he has to take care of his children first. You understand me?
Yeah, of course. And the question of Greece at the moment, let's just have a brief detour into that kind of thing, because in Ireland we had a recession in 2008. We were one of the countries like Greece that were very bad.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then we came out of it kind of okay. But what we have had in the past maybe 6 or 7 years is that our economy on paper is doing very well. Our GDP is very big, but people can't afford housing, etc. Things are very expensive. So it's almost like we're in a recession, even though the economy is running very hot. So, we still have very difficult conditions in Ireland. What is the general situation like in Greece? Jobs, housing, everything, is it good? Is it bad? People say it's bad, but you can tell me.
Housing, I think after the recession is not so bad. Okay. Imagine you could buy a small house in not a good area in Athens, but you could buy a small house with 2 rooms for 10,000 euros. some years ago, a couple of years ago. But now with the Airbnbs and all that, prices have gone up. But I don't think housing is a problem in Greece. The problem in Greece is that it hasn't recovered fully from the recession yet, because the problem is in Greece that the problem was from the state, not from the private people or the corporations. Okay, and that is hard to handle. And we had some pushbacks and all that. Life is as expensive, I would say, as in any other European country, but the wages are low. So I think that is what sums the problem right now for the Greek people, and not for the numbers that you see or I read in the news or anything like that.
Yeah, again, I don't know if this is very entertaining for the audience, but I'm interested, so that's all that matters for now, right? Is in Ireland the economy, so to speak, or they tell us anyway, is mainly from these international companies, Twitter, Facebook, pharmaceutical companies, all of this stuff. That's the big engine of the Irish economy. What is the big thing in Greece that keeps you from being destitute and third world? You must have some kind of industries that are your main.
Yeah, I think it's the tourism in Greece. It's the tourism industry. People coming in the summer, enjoying the beaches and all this. My guess is that I haven't researched this. It is the tourism industry. We have agriculture, we have trade, but not in a big percentage, I think.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to know that, because what does everything hinge on in Greece for a good lifestyle? I'm sure in Athens it's quite nice, and there's what's the population like there? No, I'm getting really into it, but I am curious.
I think it's 3.5 million in Athens.
Whoa. That's a lot, because Dublin it depends who you ask, but it's like 1.5 million. Now, actually, can you explain to us, and I'm not asking you for an opinion on it, or I know you probably don't want to be associated with it maybe, but I am just curious, because you see a lot of news media about it in Ireland, in England, in the English-speaking world. It's a kind of attractive story for people. The Golden Dawn, what happened with that? They rose and they fell. Can you tell me anything about that?
These guys were existent in the Greek scene before they make a party, in the streets and all this. And of course, they were extremists. They used to fight in the hoods and all this funny stuff. They took advantage of the recession. The problem with the recession politically in Greece is that parties that were, extremists became mainstream because people. It all happened too fast for Greece, so people didn't have the time to verify who's lying, and so there were people from the Golden Dawn and other parties who said, let's get out of the European Union. We will make again our own currency, and we will be fine. We will live rich and all this. So people fall for that. The other reason that the Golden Dawn was permitted to say by the votes it had to make it to the parliament was that they were going to the places in Athens that had too many immigrants and abused the immigrants in order to get in the favor of the local people. Because we protect you and we are the pure Greeks and all this funny stuff. But as the recession mostly is gone, they are gone too. People after a couple of years understand who is lying or who is not. And the other thing with the Golden Dawn is that there were some incidents of violence in Athens, powered by the people that are in Golden Dawn, and particularly there was one that one person was killed from Golden Dawn members, and one other incident that Golden Dawn members were killed. So you understand how it all went down so fast.
Yeah, I've just, from the brief kind of reading I've done on it, and I would, of course, I'm going to try and get some other Greek guests on maybe, because I just think everybody should be talking about this, Now, I would like to hear from you, I would hear from the far left, I would hear from Golden Dawn, everybody. But just while we're on Golden Dawn, some people say that they were kind of removed from parliament by special laws and all of that. Do you think they were
No,
kind of targeted by the state?
No. The case with Golden Dawn is this, that on the incident that I described, that some people stabbed a left, let's say, somehow famous singer in Greece, and he died. And justice found, after researching this, and that people from Golden Dawn on the same night had sent text messages or called other people from Golden Dawn to gather there and kill this guy. So it's crystal clear for me. There's no confusion there. The problem is what the Golden Dawn says is that this all was orchestrated, but they have confessed killing this guy. It's been on court. So how could, if I confess killing you, and I am a Golden Dawn supporter, and everybody else on the spot is a Golden Dawn supporter, how could I say it's orchestrated? He didn't get killed by the aliens.
Yeah, and I can't help but ask, this singer that you said it was a celebrity or a singer. Why?
Not famous, but he was a celebrity in the far right, let's say, part of Greek people. In the far left, sorry, left. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay, a singer or an activist or what kind of person was it?
Yeah. He was a hip hop singer that attracted the far left audience.
Okay, interesting. And in terms of the far left in Greece, is there a kind of an Antifa, a violent left, or a kind of, does that exist?
Yeah, it exists, but it's been going for years from this side in Greece. Greece is mostly, after all these things in the recession, we had strikes, and we had hard times in Greece in 2008 for various reasons, and 2010. I think they are more, let's say, a bit more favored than the far right in Greece. But I wouldn't say they escaped anything, or you understand me. However this may come, I see also some comments here. I said before that 2 guys from the Golden Dawn were killed. And I see some people, commenting on Marxists, and it's a whole different story. It's all, as it happens, I think, in every other part of the world regarding these issues.
Well, to be fair, in let's say in Ireland, we have a far left and a far right and everything else, right? But we haven't had people killed. Whereas in Greece, I do hear, people in the chat are talking about Marxists who've killed people, and you have Golden Dawn allegedly have killed people, and so both have so there is more room for radicalism. I suppose the recession was much worse in Greece in 2008, so it made room for that. So there has been more blood spilled, I suppose you could say, which is kind of sad in Greece.
Yes.
Now, I just want to, you can cut me off, or the chat can cut me off if I'm going off topic here, but Greece had a military junta until the 1970s.
Yeah, it was from 67 to 74.
What was that characterized by? Was it right, left, anything in particular?
Oh, it was characterized right.
Okay.
Interesting. It was a military thing. It was some captains, I think. I don't know if I translate, the rank of the people.
Oh, sure, yeah.
In my mind. But there were some army captains that took over power in one night and hold it for 7 years.
And before that, it was a democracy.
Yeah, it was a democracy, and those guys that made the junta said that they would like to keep it up because they want to save the country from communism. So you understand, they were right wing.
Okay. So maybe somewhat like Pinochet or something like that. A reaction to communism.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I wonder if that was supported by the U.S. government.
There are rumors it was supported, but I don't know if you can prove it. The thing is that at that time, there was a Greek CIA operator in Greece Greek American, I mean, Mr. Avrakotos. He also is played in the movie Charles Wilson's War, and at that time the vice president of the States was also Greek American. So I think there might be a connection there, and it's rumored to be a connection there. But it's been too many years, and I don't know if I can prove it or anybody can prove it. It's definitely a thing that is used from the left wing in Greek. That this all was brought to us by the evil United States and all this.
Yes. So the reason Greek would have gone communist and we would have a Marxist utopia if the evil US didn't infiltrate.
Exactly.
Greece, yeah.
Yeah,
and in terms of
the path, you could be a Greek left winger.
In terms of the kind of state in Greece, I often say in Ireland you have a government and then you have a state, a kind of a deeper state, right? It sounds like a conspiracy theory term, but of course there is a deeper state or a more permanent state. And one of the big aspects of that are NGOs. Now, I don't know, does that translate? Are you familiar with that term?
Yeah, I'm familiar.
Yeah. Do you have a big? I find in Ireland even the most moderate anti-immigration critique, to say there's too much or whatever, becomes a taboo because the NGOs are very strong on calling everybody racist and everything like that. So it creates this massive fear, and they have lots of money they get money from the Irish state, the Irish government. So they're very well funded. Do you have this issue in Greece?
Oh, it's a huge issue. It was a huge issue until this border thing came up, because the problem is that with the issue that we discussed earlier about the islands, they started being the islanders in Greece, because of the NGOs and their involvement in the whole thing. They started looting NGOs' offices and kicking NGO people out of the islands and all this. And I think it happened also yesterday, one incident like that. So it's really hard right now. The problem is we have to discuss why the islanders got to this point.
Well, of course,
we can use the saying that the far left or the far right did this, but I don't think the far left or the far right could have so much people to loot 10 offices at one night. So we have to discuss why this reaction was triggered.
No, we can't discuss it.
No, I don't mean you and me. You understand what I'm saying?
No, but I'm just joking, because the general atmosphere from the media and from NGOs and everything is that you can't really discuss why that would happen. But like you say, it's completely rational. The rational question is to ask, why would that happen? But it doesn't get asked. Now, of course, I saw reports from various media that there were guys complaining, a guy saying people attacked his car and threw his camera away, and they were far-right extremists. Now, I can bet you any money, if you went to that island and you talk to people, if you ask them what far left and far right is, they might say, I don't even know. They're not political.
I'm sure. Yeah. We're a country that most people are a bit political. They have opinion. I don't care if it's a good opinion or a bad opinion, or they have done the research you have done, or follow the news every day, or Twitter like me. But they have an opinion. The problem is that all those extremists that attacked the NGOs for the past 15 years have been hosting immigrants. They were almost even got nominated for a Nobel Prize because of their good attitude toward the immigrants and the refugees and all this. So that's why I say that we need to find, as a country, what triggered all this reaction.
Yeah, that's fair. And it's just that is particularly close to my heart, that issue, because I have, it's too long to get into now, but I have a little bit of familiarity with kind of local areas standing up or fighting back in some sense against this kind of tyranny. And I know the gap, there's always this big gap between what really happened and what you will hear in the media. And so I know without being in Lesvos, I can tell exactly what was happening there. Those people should have, been more angry years ago, and they have probably been way, way, way too patient, understanding already.
The problem is, listen, that this reaction was, let's say, triggered, okay, let me use the same word, by the things that happened last week. That as I told you, new camps were announced. They started building them. They called the police and all this, and everybody said, okay, you're protesting now, the new camps in Greece. I mean, the people that are against this protest of the islanders. And the people said, okay, you're protesting now for the new camps, but you've been hosting immigrants and feeling proud about it for years. Why don't you, all those years, protest about the immigrants? So it's as we gave them the script and told them to do this. You understand me? To the NGOs or the immigrants, or because we had an incident yesterday that some boats arrived in an island and the islanders tried to push it back. It's a weird situation. Both for Greece and also humanitarianly, it's a weird situation.
It is strange, and I bet there's all sorts of stuff. Maybe at some point I will find somebody from Lesbos or something, because neither you or me would know as much as they would. Somebody who lives there is all sorts of subversion that would happen in there, because I know it from Ireland. There is all sorts of subversion whereby there are community groups maybe set up from the area that are basically NGO people. So they speak for the community, even though they are not really the community. And they end up saying, oh yeah, we're very happy to take more, and stuff like that. There are often these kind of fake representations set up for people.
I don't know if that happened in Greece. What happened is that the previous government in Greece, up to the past July, was a left-wing government. So the general consensus was, we have open borders, we let everybody in. And this kind of magnetized the whole situation.
And this is Syriza?
Yes.
Okay. And they are far left, or kind of somewhat far left a little bit?
They say they are left center, but I would call them left with some far left members.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, we actually have a party like that in Ireland that is getting big. They are kind of just like that, like you say, left with some far left members. But yeah, it's. I was thinking I might share some of these videos we have lined up, just videos from your Twitter, Duke.
Okay.
And I want to see now if it will work, because I'm going to tell you the truth now, Duke. I did my first stream yesterday by myself, so it's a little bit new to me.
Okay.
But it should work fine if I go on to a screen share here.
Okay.
And I'm going to bring it up for the audience, because of course you have seen these things. And I imagine a lot of the audience will have seen this as well, but it's important regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think everybody should be able, because it's, for people who don't know, some people will be watching this who don't go through Twitter and all of this. This is what we're seeing here is basically making babies cry for the cameras, to make it seem like it's all children, and it's mostly children, and they're suffering, and I'm sure they are to some extent, but to try and paint a false picture of what's going on. So I'm just going to play that now for the audience, and the chat can let me know if it's playing okay, and you're getting the audio and everything. So let's have a look. So yeah, so you can see there that obviously is a setup thing, right?
Exactly.
And the issue with that is that it's used for the media. And I want to show you this, Duke, because it's a perfect example of it. Looking at it from that end, you see the supply end. That's the supply of where the propaganda comes from. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it being made, the production of it, right? But you see here is the kind of the end result, the end product. I hope everybody can see that. Okay, it's the Irish Times, so our newspaper.
Okay.
Thousands gather at the border to enter the EU. Now that picture is used cynically, of course. It could almost be the guy from the first video is in this picture. It's not the same guy, but it might as well be. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
I would question this guy. Why did you do all this thing to your child? I mean, cross the border, go to places by foot or by bus where you know nobody. You know, I wouldn't do that if it. I don't know. Okay, you can tell me this is a desperate guy, but
yeah. Why
it
would you
doesn't
do
sound
this?
like good parenting to me, you know.
No. And why would you hold your child over a fire to like smoke a baby? And then the mother in that first video is clearly trying to dramatize to show the child how to cry. You know, nobody decent would do this to their child. And again, it's just there is clearly a majority of young men between 18 and 35 are part of this. So, like you said earlier, it is just people. Yes, it's people looking for a better thing and all of that, but it is not refugees or asylum seekers and all that. And I think a lot of people or not for the most part anyway, most people in the audience will know that. I think you know that. I just, you know, I want to make it clear for some people who don't what the case is there. And also, it's just cruelty to children like that. And I'm rambling here now, sorry, so it's rude to my guest and everything else, but I have to.
No, don't worry, don't worry.
Thank you. You're very gracious, but you know, abusing babies like that and using them as propaganda tools. And the other thing I saw was this kind of far left NGO person. I've watched some videos, people from the camps in Lesbos talking about how one of the big problems is that women are victims of sexual assault, and not just to any kind of, if you can call it normal, not to, you know, any kind of, it's not a small thing, it's a big phenomenon. And my question is not to disparage all of the men there or the people or any of that, but there seems to be a high prevalence of sexual assault, and the NGOs are telling us that. I mean, the question obviously would be, well, why would we want that in here? You know, as in, if you have a camp full of, if I think if Greek people came to Ireland as refugees and we had a refugee camp full of Greek people, I think the amount of sexual assault might be similar in that camp to how it is in Ireland, right? But for some reason, it's much higher there. I don't know why.
I agree with you. I completely agree with you. Yes.
But the problem is that we don't see that reflected in the news media. We see a man holding a baby. You know, it's all very bad. Now, I just want to look at some more videos while we're doing this. I think we could finish up then, because you were a busy man on Twitter.
Oh, thank you.
Can you tell us about that, the account? Have you been running that for a long time, or because it's been so active? It's been one of the main vectors for good quality information and news on this, and I think you verify everything pretty well too.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been running the account for a bit more than 10 years, but I have been really active on politics and all that for 3 years. And I have the tendency to you know, edit some videos and all this before the border crisis. And I just did the same thing, you know, okay, of course, with bigger interest and more carefully on the border crisis, and it's gotten to meet people like you. Well, I mean, through the internet.
yeah, no, it's cool. It's very nice to do this, to kind of go back ways to find people. So I'm delighted with this. Now I want to play a video of you put up, and you said before we went live you wanted to kind of talk about this one and explain it. I hope it plays now. I'll just try to play it. Hopefully it works, and then you can tell us about it afterwards. Okay, so I'm just going to play it now.
Yeah, you don't need the sound anyway because it's Greek, so don't worry about it.
Oh yeah, I'll play it anyway, just for the feel of it. But
look it.
yeah, you can. So it's 34 seconds long. I'll just play it out. Then you can explain to us what's going on. Maybe we could play it again then, or whatever. Ideally, I would give you the pause function, but we can't do that. So let's have a look.
No
cool.
The funny thing is that this guy is Greek speaking. This is the funny thing. So he's outside the Greek border. He speaks Greek, with an accent, but he speaks Greek. I can understand him clearly. He doesn't have to verify anything, you know.
Yeah.
And he's saying all these things about Greece, you know, cursing and all that because the border are not open. So the thing is that. Obviously, this guy is one of the cases of people that either are smugglers or something else and have been in Greece, learned language, got out and came back again. And we have seen these guys, been arrested or anything in the past years. So I don't know, it's funny, but to have the desire to enter a country and curse and say all these things that this guy is saying, it's an oxymoron. Why do you want to go inside if you don't like it? Why do you want to enter this country?
So I like we'll wrap up in a sec. Just one final thing, and I've kind of asked you this already, but just to be kind of clear, if I go to Greece now.
Yes.
And I, maybe it depends on where I go, but let's say I go to the average place in Greece, the most kind of average place, and I ask the person, so what do you think of all this? What's happening now? What are they going to? What's the chances of what they're going to tell me? The most likely thing they will tell me.
I think most people will tell you what I'm saying, but everybody has the same idea for himself that he has the opinion of the majority. But I think we really, as a country, had too much of this. I don't know if it will continue or it will be stopped or it will be, minimized. But this is a country that has taken 1 million immigrants in the 90s, and they assimilated. It's not a problem. We have also taken 1 million in the recent years out of this situation. Most of them, of course, have gone in Europe. In Central Europe, I mean, they haven't stayed here. But this is an ongoing process. So I think people are a bit tired of this. And listening to the news that, the European Union sends some money to the Greek government to take care of the refugees, and they have the benefits and they get some money from the UN or the EU in a country that is in recession for the past 10 years. Is a bit troubling for the average Greek guy that struggles to find a job that pays him 500 per month, and some other guy comes from a foreign country, he's not a refugee, and he gets paid 400 to do nothing.
Yeah, it's a reasonable concern.
All this that I'm saying, okay, it doesn't happen everywhere for all the people, I mean the refugees, but it happens, and it's when you hear it on the news every day, it's it's a bit troubling for an average Greek guy.
It strikes me every time I see footage of the border crisis. I should have shared more, but if you want to look it up, actually for the audience, go to Duke's Twitter. It's in the description. I would advise you to go there and just scroll down. There's so much of it there. I think it's one of the I think it might be one of the best resources to see information on that right now. And I'm not trying to flatter. But when I see all of that footage, I think of any other country. Like if I was at a border in China, let's say the border from Vietnam, and I was cutting through the fence, throwing smokes. Now I'm not. People are going to say I'm advocating for lethal violence here. I'm not going to say that, right? But let's just say that if I were in China and I did that at the border, and the police, warned me, they said, "Step back, leave. You have to leave now. Whatever. You are not authorized. All of that stuff." I would expect that if I kept pushing forward, they would shoot me dead. And
that's
like
my view of things also.
Yeah, and the issue I have with that is that the main point of it is that if they shot me dead and I could somehow speak from beyond the grave, and if you asked me my opinion on that, if I were being honest, I would have to say that was my choice. I made that choice. I was the one who refused warnings and stepped. It sounds like normality to me. I would consider it my fault. I would consider it ultimately suicide on my behalf. So maybe we shouldn't talk too much about that, but it is people talk about cruelty from the Greek authorities, or maybe far left people would. I mean, my God, it's a blessing and it's a gift that they aren't using lethal violence already. In no other country in the world would you, or no other, let's say, non-Western country, would you get away with that?
Yeah, people have been getting away with that for more than 10 years in Greece. We're talking about it for the last couple of days, but people have been crossing illegally 500 per day, 1,000 per day. We had a time in 2015 that more than 5,000 people per day came illegally to Greece, and nobody stopped them. And nobody, said, we don't know what's going on. Everybody knew what's going on. So I don't think you can blame Greece for using, too much force or abusing anybody. It would be, funny to say that about Greece. And that, as you said, I don't think it's happening right now.
Okay, yeah, like I keep saying final question. Maybe this will be the last one, whatever, right? Is that I do wonder, I'm not, some people get very, very hyped up on the Islam question and all of that. And I think there are times when people go too far with that, right? It's not like you're going to wake up in the morning in a Sharia country, sometimes people get a bit too dramatic, right? But at the same time,
I can relate to that, because problem is with Islam, it's not the religion that is bad. It's the radicals. The radicals are calculated worldwide as approximately 25% of the Muslim population. So when you say that you have 1 million Muslims in Greece, okay, I will divide it by 2 and tell you that you have 500,000. But 25% of the 500,000 is a lot of people. It's 125,000 jihadis in Greece.
That's a lot.
So,
yeah.
It's not funny. It's not funny.
I would.
And
no.
We live in a country that its neighbor is a Muslim country, and this country, I mean Turkey, and the president threaten you with I don't know, war on the people that don't like us, and it's not an easy thing, for us.
I do worry that it's one thing to think about radicals and jihadis and issues like that, maybe grooming. I don't know if you're familiar with that in England or whatever. These are kind of some issues, but on a macro, on a big scale, it seems to me as an outsider, you can tell me if I'm being dramatic, that there is, if you zoom out, if you don't look at this year or next year or the decade, but you look at a longer time period, it seems to me like Greece is being reabsorbed into the Islamic world slowly. Because when I look to the north, I see these countries that have had conflicts, internal conflicts, Yugoslavia and various Balkan states, and between, ultimately between the Islamic world and the Christendom in some of these countries. And then you look to Turkey, which is becoming less and less secular. It's becoming a kind of a sultanate or whatever. And Greece is just stuck right in the middle of all that. And at the moment, it's being literally invaded, ultimately, by the Muslim world.
The blessing with Greece the last years is that we don't have a good economy. But because people say we don't want to live in Greece because we will have better benefits in Germany, or they haven't attacked Greece because it doesn't represent the ideal Western country to their mind, and I have to admit it's not. So that's why we're not in real danger, or we haven't been up to now. But I cannot predict what will happen to the future. Numbers never lie, and I can tell you I'm not disagreeing with you on what you said.
Yeah, I mean, when you look out to the islands, I actually didn't know this until recently. When you look at the Lesbos and the Chios and all that, these islands you could swim from there to Turkey. So I mean, some people could argue that they're kind of, in a geographical sense, almost in Turkish territory anyway. So they have a perfect staging ground to kind of do this invasion. And you could call it a conspiracy theory if it, but all you have to do is look at the news in the last few days. It seems to match up, but that's just me. I mean, it's not my country, but I do worry for Greece in the longer term.
It's a thing that all depends on the way that the Turkish side will act, because I think you will agree that Greece has not been a country that asks anything from its neighboring countries. We don't have, this desire, to put it this way. And local societies always find a way to work. The Greek islands that are near Turkey have a good relationship. I mean, the people who live there with the Turkish people, they go there shopping. Turkish come to the Greek islands. It's all a matter of politics. People always find a way to get each other, to get around each other.
Yeah, that's quite a positive note to end on. If I didn't ruin it by going back into something else, I am reaching the end. Is that is actually a very positive thing, that even people across different types of people and from different places sometimes can find a way to just get on. Or when I say get on, I don't mean get on with each other, but just get on with life. It always there is some ability for people to just kind of work it out. Now, at the same time, it's not easy, and ideally, people could just be left to their own cultures a little bit, not to, because look at Lesbos and Chios. From what I hear, there are more asylum seekers living on those islands than people, than local people.
Yeah, that's what I heard also, but I cannot verify. And also, I have to tell you that after the last week's incidents, some NGOs have left the country. They departed Greece. So I don't know. And after the locals have pushed the boat back and didn't receive new immigrants, how this will go on.
So they had no customers.
I don't know. Yeah. Probably.
Yeah. Actually, there was an Irish guy who was arrested a few years ago and put in jail. He was a young, trendy college student, and he was actually arrested for he was working with an NGO on the island, and he was arrested by Greek authorities and jailed for human trafficking, smuggling, liaising with the smuggler. So that's a whole topic we could get into. One thing I want to just ask you is, between the whole Greek and Turkish thing, you say people can get along and it can go okay and that kind of stuff, but do you ever worry potentially, as the years go on or the months go on, of an escalation toward military conflict between the two states?
That's always on the table with Greece and Turkey. We had the last time we had a real war was in Cyprus in 1974. Then we had an escalation. We didn't go to war, I think, in 1981 or 1982. We had one in 1987. Then we had one in 1996. It's a thing that's been going on. And let me leave the 1974 situation out of this. But after that, everything has been done because Turkey asks something in a way not polite from Greece. So Turkey is the oppressor right now. And for the last 20 years. And this I say not as a Greek. I say as an international citizen.
An objective person.
Yes, and that's why I didn't comment on the 1974 situation, because it's so complicated and need 10 minutes to describe.
Okay. Maybe next time or some other time. But
no problem.
And in terms of military, you see all these nerdy military videos on YouTube. Maybe there probably are YouTube videos about it. I know you're probably not a military expert, but I mean, the first question is: do you think Turkey's military is just far more powerful than Greece's military? Correct me. And the second, you can answer that one first. Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, according to international people who follow this, and I'm not an expert, Turkey has a much bigger and not much. It has a bigger and stronger army. But the real question here is if this all is available to Turkey, because they are also having a war in Syria, first of all, and second of all, that after the coup that happened in Turkey in 2017, I think, 2018, that people tried to take power out of Erdogan. It didn't succeed. This was done by some people from the Turkish military. So his reaction was to jail thousands of military personnel, and I'm not sure that all these people would fight in a war. You understand what I mean? I don't know if Turkey's military personnel is really specialized and all this. On the other hand, you have a country like Greece that has lowered its budget on military spending because of the recession. It's all a thing, I don't know. But the only thing I have to tell you is that numbers from international experts say that Turkey's army is bigger. The problem on the other side is that if this happens on ground, it will happen where the border crisis is right now. And geographically is a place that you cannot go over easily if you want to invade Greece. The islands are a whole different story with technology involved and all that. I don't have the knowledge to get into.
That's I feel like the islands will go pretty quickly if that were to happen. And of course, we're kind of being
probably.
dramatic when we say this.
Possibly,
maybe
not probably, possibly.
I don't know. It's just the geographical location, makes me think. But the other question then is NATO. Obviously, Greece and Turkey are both NATO members. This is a very difficult issue if a war begins, isn't it?
Yes, of course.
I have no idea what happens. I mean, you would expect that NATO, if they were siding with anybody, would have to side with Greece because it's more of a Western country, ideally. But that's
NATO
not the way the world works.
Doesn't look geography. NATO looks at power. And if this is a military collision, so they will go to the side of the strongest, let's say, opponent. And I won't be fooled. The strongest guy here is Turkey. So it's
I mean, they have a superior military and a much larger population.
Exactly.
And also, but then the other side of it is that, like you mentioned, Turkey is kind of overextending itself because it's extending itself into Syria, which equals Russia. This could turn now that I talk about it, I can imagine this turning into a real mess.
I can give you also. It can get a real mess, and I think that an airplane carrier of the United States is in the Aegean the last hours, as I read. I'm not sure about it. The thing is that I can tell you for the 96 crisis that Greek and Turkish boats were in the Aegean ready to fire one another. And rumor has it that it was an American satellite or something like that blocked everything from happening. So we can count or say anything, but the big guys are watching. So I don't know who decides what, and you can never know. Also,
the big guys are watching. So you have the US kind of torn between NATO and Turkey, or it's Turkey and Greece through NATO, and then you have Turkey and Syria through Russia, and all of this kind of stuff. So it's crazy, but we'll see what happens. So I'm going to leave it there, and I want to obviously thank you for coming on. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me.
You took basically what I did was I scoured Twitter asking people, and I was very gracious of you to accept. The other thing is that before we went live and when we were talking, you excused yourself.
Can I be excused because I'm having a message that there's an urgent situation in a Greek island?
Of course, we will be looking for your Twitter to get the news on that. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining me. See you. Take it easy. Bye. Okay, he's gone. So it's just me. I'm going to put I don't like my face being that big on screen, so I'll put my desktop back up. So how is everybody in the chat? Give me a hello. Someone says, what a gent about Duke. Isn't he an absolute gent, right? So are we all good? Oh, nice one. Okay, so any thoughts on that? I wish I had a super chat feature. I don't know how that works or whatever. Not to actually make money, just to somehow organize chats. I think I'm going to have to do it. Get someone to kind of do it while I'm streaming, and maybe send me a list at the end of questions. But I don't want to keep you here unnecessarily, but I also want to ramble a little bit. Emotional. DM says emotional. Who's emotional? You or me? I'm very emotional. It was just some very interesting stuff. I could talk to him all day. I would love to go to Greece to figure it all out. If we had some NGOs and media and all that, I would be, they would be buying my flights and all that and expenses, but we don't, so it's not going to happen. But it would be great to actually go there. Okay, I'm not muted. It was great to have him on. I want to get more people on. I was trying to get someone from Chile a few weeks ago, and it's actually surprisingly hard. If you want to get someone from a country, you would think that you just find someone on Twitter or find someone online, find an activist, a journalist, whatever, and they will come on. It's hard to find anybody when there's a language barrier and they're kind of outside the Western sphere, like Chile obviously is, and Greece actually is too a bit. I would have found it much easier to find an Italian or a French or a Spanish or whatever, than the Greek thing was difficult for some reason. Someone says, has Torino gone to Greece? I would love if Torino went to Greece. Sorry. It would just be fairly based, I would say. Torino on Lesbos, Torino up at the border. Oh man, I would be watching that, like definitely tuning in. to that, right on the border. He should be there. And I know it's tough for someone like Gran Torino. There's only so much, he gets from whatever, but you look at these establishment media people, and I saw Ellen Coyne on for Joe.ie interviewed the finance minister and had like 400 views for interviewing him 2 months ago. But yet they are funded, they have sound people, camera people, wages, and all of this to empower them to do what they do. And it's pretty bad. Whereas we would all love to see Torino in on the Greek border and the islands. Actually, I don't know. I don't know. Someone suggested it. Maybe it's just not true at all. But I mean, if he was interested, and we could get him a flight and a place to crash, God, that would be amazing. Anyway, look, I've taken up enough of your time, I think. If you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe, like or whatever. But I would really appreciate a sub, and I'm going to try doing interviews like this a bit more. Thanks again to Duke for coming on, and again, follow him on Twitter. I'm going to be, as soon as I go off this, I'm going to be looking to see what this emergency crisis was or whatever. So anyway, that's it from me. End broadcast. Take it easy, lads. See you. Bye.